Pakistan. We are really glad to have partnered with National Institute of Maritime Affairs for this important webinar. Before I share the objectives of the webinar, there are some housekeeping rules that I would like to share with all of you. So since this is an online webinar, it's being live streamed on all the social media channels of STPI. And also the recording will be available on our YouTube channel later, so you can revisit just in case if you skip anything. Also, I would request the speakers here to please keep their microphones off when not speaking and keep their cameras on when speaking. For the participants who have joined us, please use the chat box or Q&A section to raise any questions that you have, and we would be happy to take your questions in the end. And also feel free to share any comments. Secondly, in case if you think that there has been any mistake from our end, please do not hesitate to point that out in the chat box, and we'd be happy to rectify it. Now I would like to discuss the objectives of the webinar. The webinar, we will be discussing how the circular economy can be implemented in Pakistan's ship recycling industry to reduce environmental degradation and enhance resource recovery, and also highlight the need for environment protection through sustainable management of maritime activities, including reducing marine pollution from shipbreaking and industrial waste, and evaluate how Pakistan can improve regulatory enforcement to ensure compliance with international environmental and labor standards, to encourage collaboration between different stakeholders, and to discuss how the shift towards sustainable ship recycling can create equitable opportunities, including gender-responsive climate finance mechanisms, ensuring women and marginalized communities benefit from climate action and green jobs in ship recycling. Also, this is part of a consultative discussion that we are hosting for developing the National Circular Economy Policy of Pakistan. And this is an important sector, so we are happy to have representatives from different relevant organizations and also the chief guest from Ministry of Maritime Affairs. So without further ado, I would now like to invite Dr. Abid Suleri, Executive Director of STPI, for his welcome remarks. Over to you, sir. You are on mute.
Thank you, Zainab. Good morning, everyone, from whichever time zone you have joined us. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to this consultative webinar. Let me thank Vice Admiral Ahmed Saeed Saab for accepting our request to be a partner in hosting this very important consultation. Thank you, sir. And let me also welcome the chief guest, Mr. Abdustar Khokhar, Senior Joint Secretary from Ministry of Maritime Affairs, industry experts and representatives who have joined us today from Karachi Shipyard. Now, Pakistan, with its strategic maritime position and one of the world's largest shipbreaking industries in Gadani, plays a crucial role in the global recycling value chain. However, the environmental and labor challenges associated with traditional shipbreaking practices cannot be ignored. We know that maritime and marine ecosystem is under immense pressure. Chemical spills, oil leaks, and improper disposal of hazardous material threaten coastal biodiversity and local communities. And this is where we need to think of sustainable ship recycling. I must highlight here, there's this 18-minute documentary on YouTube on Gadani Shipyard. I'll share the link on chat after my comments. It is posted 10 days ago, and it has already got 2.7 million viewers. And it actually highlights how Western countries, they are bringing their ship illegally to Pakistan, to Gadani for recycling, either using fake documentation or using fake declaration, whereby they actually try to absolve from their liabilities and their responsibilities of cleaning those ships from their toxic material. And such reports actually can permanently affect the ship recycling facilities in Godani and in Pakistan, because these are in violation of Hong Kong International Convention for the safe and environmentally sound recycling of ship, and they are in violation of EU ship recycling regulation and other best practices from leading ship recycling nations. Now, we are at a crossroad. At one hand, we like to retain this ship recycling facility in Pakistan. One would like to actually enhance ship recycling contribution to Pakistan's economy and Pakistan's foreign exchange. On the other hand, one would like to avert the risk of any blacklisting or any negative measures either from EU or from other countries, whereby the Western countries, they stop sending their ship to Godani, either using the environmental excuses or using the labor condition or any other excuse. And this is a balancing act. And this balancing act becomes even more crucial and more important when we think of circular economy principle in ship recycling. Now, circular economy principle are not just an environmental necessity, as Zainab pointed out, they are an economic opportunity. Of course, one would like to follow a circular approach that ensure that materials are reused, recycled, and repurposed efficiently, minimizing waste and reducing the industry's carbon footprint. I can also think of this circular economy approach leading to safe and safer recycling, leading to cleaner recycling, whereby the Western countries, they actually clean their ship before they bring their toxic material to Pakistan oceans. And by adopting sustainable ship recycling practices, Pakistan can certainly enhance resource efficiency, reduce environmental damage, and create new green jobs and comply to all the international standards that apply for sustainable ship recycling. We must address regulatory gaps and ensure stronger enforcement of environmental and labor standards in shipbreaking. Aligning Pakistan's policies with global best practices and international conventions will be key to making ship recycling safer and more sustainable. But it would require investing in modern infrastructure and clean technologies, as one can see on the dockyards of ship recycling facilities of Turkey, ship recycling facilities in Portugal, and ship recycling facilities in many other countries. Now, sustainable ship recycling must also be socially inclusive. Women and marginalized communities should benefit from new economic opportunities, but again, without them getting exposed to the hazardous material and toxicity that many of these ships they bring to Pakistani oceans. Now, today's discussion is not just theoretical. It will directly feed into the development of Pakistan's National Circular Economy Policy document that STPI team is preparing with the United Nations Environment Program. This policy aims to integrate circular economy solutions into our broader economic and environmental strategies, ensuring a sustainable maritime sector for the future. This is a shared responsibility. Government, private sector, civil society, and international organizations must work together to drive meaningful changes. I encourage all of you to actively contribute your insight and recommendations, helping shape a sustainable future for Pakistan's maritime economy. And I once again thank all the experts, all the panelists, and especially National Institute of Maritime for co-organizing today's consultation. I look forward to getting educated from your deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sulei, for highlighting the significance of this discussion that we are having today, and also on how this is going to be feeding into the National Circular Economy Policy document. Apart from this, we need to learn from best practices, but also being a developing country, there are certain challenges that we face when it comes to, how ships are landing at our ports and what are their conditions. And because there's no, global enforcement of the criteria that exists, and so inclusivity, social aspects, they are being ignored by the international partners as well. And how Pakistan can cope up with this situation in the country, it's important to have deliberation on it with all stakeholders. So thank you for your remarks. Now, without further ado, I'm going to be starting with different sessions here. We have planned session 1, which is titled as Circularity in Marine and Ship Recycling. The focus of this session is going to be on overview of circularity, environmental challenges that are being faced in the sector, barriers to adoption of different practices, and but what are the best practices and innovations that can be handled. So in this session, I would now like to request our first speaker, Dr. Fasiha Safta, who is a research fellow at National Institute of Maritime Affairs, to please highlight and share your point of view around circularity in marine environment and how environmental challenges and pollution reduction can be achieved in this sector. Over to you, Dr. Fasiha. And may I please request if you can put your slides on the slideshow mode, please?
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Zainab, is everything all right?
Yes, yes. Your slides are visible, and your voice is also audible. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ms. Zainab Naeem and Dr. Abid Suleri, for giving us an opportunity to give our view about the circular economy, development of the circular economy in Pakistan. I am the first speaker, so I am going to take some liberty to talk on circularity in general, and linking it to the maritime sector. We have a very good lineup which will follow me. We have a representative from Pakistan Shipbreaking Association, Mr. Javed Iqbal. We also have MD Karachi Shipyard and Engineering Works, who are going to give an overview of the working of the shipbuilding industry. Then we have an economist, an esteemed economist with us on board. He is Dr. Anil Salman from IPRI. And then from NEMA, we have Commander Anis and Commodore Rahil Masood, who are going to talk on the ship recycling aspect of the maritime industry. So as we have an esteemed panel to follow me, I'm going to mostly focus on the maritimes, talk about the environmental aspect of the maritime aspect and circular economy. I'm going to start with the circular economy. We also have some students and researchers joining us from the maritime sector. We have some students from Gwadar University and Lasbela University with us as well. So this is going to provide a ground for further deliberations on the topic. So what is circular economy? A circular economy is a model of resource and production and consumption in any economy that involves sharing, leasing, reusing, repairing, refurbishing, and recycling existing materials and products for as long as possible. The ultimate goal is to reduce as much waste as we can and to follow sustainability and include sustainability in the economy. You can see the diagram here where raw material enters the cycle, and at the end, we start from the designing phase and until the end, till the whole process of production and consumption is completed and waste is generated. It then incorporates into the sustainable design again, and the residual waste is reduced as much as possible. In context of the marine environment, circularity involves transitioning from a linear waste generating model to a system where resources are reused, recycled, and generated, minimizing waste and pollution and promoting sustainable practices throughout the maritime industry. So at the end, if you consider the marine sector only, the circular economy, it is going to not only reduce carbon emissions, air pollution, and toxicity exposure for the humans as well as the biodiversity, but it will also generate some positive impacts, such as habitat restoration. We can jump into the sector of renewable energy as a result of promoting circular economy, and as a result, we would also be cleaning the air. But why circular economy at this point of time? We know that there has been a lot of talk on sustainability and cleaner energy resources in the last decade or so. One statistics from the United Nations Environmental Commission for Europe reports that the use of material resources has surged more than tenfold since 1900, and it is going to double again by the end of by around 2050. So rampant consumption is unsustainable for the long term, and it threatens to exacerbate resource scarcity, biodiversity loss, and of course, climate change. Circularity, if we incorporate it into our economic system, it reduces both our demands for raw material and the environmental impact of obtaining them as well. The circular economy has two very important aspects, which all the maritime sectors and maritime industries must introduce in their practices. One is extended producer responsibility, and the other is life cycle analysis. So extended producer responsibility actually means that the producer has the responsibility of their products from the start when it is produced till the end. They have to keep track of where their product is going till the product has ended its life. And in the future, this extended producer responsibility will be incorporated in Pakistan's economy as well, especially after the policy, the circular economy policy that is being prepared in Pakistan by SBI and UNEP. Then there is life cycle analysis. It is a method to evaluate the environmental impacts associated with a product, process, and service throughout its entire life cycle. So the principle incorporates an approach where the producer thinks that they have to use a raw material which can be recycled at the end, or which reduces as much waste as possible. The responsibility of reducing waste and keeping sustainability in mind and making their product sustainable and reusable and recyclable lies with the producer. These are the two concepts that are the backbone of circular economy. So why is circular economy important for oceans and marine environment? When in Pakistan, when we think about economy, basically the first thing that comes into our mind is the land economy, the agriculture, the industries. But living in a maritime nation, we must start thinking about maritime economy and preserving our oceans and marine environment as well. The oceans are very important as they generate half of the world's oxygen, sequester roughly a quarter of human-made carbon emissions, and absorb more than 90% of the excess heat associated with greenhouse gas emissions. Maintaining the crucial services of these ecosystems is necessary. And of course, they can be done when we try to mitigate the climate change. Not only does the marine environment provide us biodiversity and life support, it is economically vital too. Just as billions rely on the oceans for food, income, and culture, its ecosystems hold both ecological and economic value as well. And now these blue spaces have been added in policies around the globe now, which were previously being sidelined. Waste and pollution are there symptoms of the linear economy, where we produce a thing, use it, and discard it. Of course, by this linear model, we are going to increase the production of waste. Plastics are a prominent land-based example. Approximately 11 million tons of plastics end up in the oceans each year, an amount expected to nearly triple by 2040. Around 7 years ago, research warned that without urgent system transformation, there would be more plastic than fish in the sea by 2050. And we see this plastic pollution in Pakistan's coastlines as well. Circular economy is crucial for the maritime sector of Pakistan for several reasons, as it promotes sustainability, reduces environmental impacts, and boosts economic growth. This is a best practice model by the European Union for sustainable blue economy, where circular economy is incorporated in every aspect of the blue economy, including the energy production. They make better management of space at the coastlines. They've reduced the pollution at the coastlines. The climate adaptation and coastal resilience, they go hand in hand with coastal economies. And at the end, biodiversity production and sustainable food production is a result that is seen at the end of the whole cycle if the economy continues in the circular economy model. So by the end of this slide, I hope that you understand that circular economy, as the name incorporates, and the name is self-explanatory. It's a circular model where the whole economy moves in a circular way, and it has to incorporate maritime sector in Pakistan. Why? I'm going to move on to the potentials of circular economy in Pakistan. In the circular economy, waste is almost eliminated. Of course, we cannot move to 100% efficiency, but it is almost eliminated. Some of the examples which are already existing in the maritime sector are the reusable fishing pots, reusable nets, and reusable lines to remanufacture marine equipment and rented water sports apparel. Methods are being developed to make use of plastic waste recovered from the sea into walkways and platforms for aquaculture facilities on a small scale. And there are other initiatives that turn the high volume of waste byproducts from marine industries into high value products. The fish scales are being used as making surfaces. Tilapia is a fish which is used to, its skin is being used in the cosmetics industries. Collagens are produced from fish and they're used in cosmetics. However, many of these enterprises involve high technology, energy intensive processes. Therefore, while waste to health initiatives, they do form a part of the circular economy at sea in many countries, they do not represent a total system solution to the challenge that our oceans are facing. So these small scale work that is mostly being done at private level, this can be incorporated into the circular economy policies to make them more viable and make them into a large-scale industry, ultimately, when the system is streamlined into the policy. One example in the circular economy is the ports operations. Ports are the spine of circular economy, where the shipment arrives, it is loaded and unloaded, and ports can become the hubs for circular activities, facilitating the reuse and recycling of materials and promoting sustainable practices within the ecosystem. They can implement the reverse logistics, whereas they not only provide the raw material to the consumers, but they can also work in a reverse gear. They can collect the waste from the consumers and give it to the industries to reuse as resource. They can also salvage material from end-of-life products and return them to the value chain. Because they are the ports are the hub of the economic activity going on in the port cities. By integrating these aspects at seaports, we can advance towards circularity, we can reduce waste and promote sustainable practices. A new term that is being introduced around the globe is green ports, which has a lot of potential in Pakistan, being at the crossroads of global transshipment lanes. Green ports, which prioritize environmental preservation and sustainability in port operations, they're increasingly adopting circular economy principles, and Pakistan can benefit from best practices in the port operations as well. So an alignment between governments, businesses, and stakeholders can facilitate the process, but the nature and extent of such an alignment have not been well defined, especially in economies like Pakistan, which is still trying to incorporate circularity in our economy. Then we move on to the shipbuilding industry. We have experts from the shipbuilding industry here who are going to deliberate on this aspect and who are going to give a more field first-hand experience on the issue. I can give an overview about the life cycle assessment of the ship design. From the start, the recycling aspect can be included in the shipbuilding industry, where they use raw materials like steel, aluminium, and various alloys. And the byproducts include scrap metal, paint chips, potentially waste from composite material. So from the start, the raw materials can be used, keeping in mind their circularity and their recyclable potential. Energy efficiency has become a very important aspect in the shipping industry, since the IMO's regulations have, that is the International Maritime Organization's regulations about reducing emissions and using efficient fuel in the maritime industry have become more stringent, and they're focusing on aligning all the practices in the maritime transport sector to green shipment practices. So energy efficiency has become very important under IMO's obligations, and there would be a liability, not an option in the future. So Pakistan's circular economy industry must take into account that circularity is the future. So it has to be incorporated into the national circular economy policy. This sector can contribute and learn a lot from this aspect. Then waste management, renewable energy resources, life cycle assessment. This is all happening to some extent at shipbuilding industries, but they need to be formalized into a proper mechanism. A ship which is circular by design has some aspects of reducing, reusing, refurbishing, recycling in all the stages of it: design, shipbuilding, operations, and dismantling. So this is a rough guideline for the shipbuilding industry, where the design can be made more circular, and the reference has been given here as well. And then, as Dr. Abid Suleri also mentioned, that we had a thriving ship recycling industry, which has not been performing very well in the last decade or so because of the non-compliance of the Hong Kong Convention. The end-of-the-life ships, once regarded as a liability by developed economies, are now evolved into a commodity for the developing economies of South Asia. So well-managed ship recycling operations hold the potential to significantly contribute to the principles of a circular economy and the attainment of UN Sustainable Development Goals. As an example, about 60% of Bangladesh's total steel demand is met via ship recycling, and Pakistan's Gaddani shipyards provides around 15% of the nation's steel needs. So over 70% of the scrap metal is supplied to re-rolling mills in Karachi, and approximately 95% of the industry's income comes from the selling of ship scrap material. So the ship recycling industry is it has a huge potential to boost the circular economy of Pakistan. It is already an industry which is supporting the circularity. This needs to be incorporated in the national circular economy policy, and the status of Pakistan's compliance and the issues that they face, they will be covered by the later speakers in detail as well. The potential of circular economy in ship recycling can be understood by the projected need for ship recycling. It is going to spike exponentially by 2044, because around the world, greener ships and greener fuels are taking over. There are modifications happening in engine design and ship design, and this is going to be an industry which is going to thrive in the future. But Pakistan's marine pollution is a case which needs a lot of attention. The total number of industrial units in Karachi are estimated to be around 10,000, and various different sites of industries produce around 450 million gallons of untreated water being dumped into the sea every day, particularly in Karachi, where about 430 million gallons per day of untreated waste is dumped into the sea. But some of the plastics does emerge from fisheries, aquaculture, and nautical activities, but around 80% of the total comes from the land. So circular economy on the land is going to ultimately help resolve the issue of marine pollution in Pakistan on the coasts as well. To summarize, the benefits of circular economy are going to be manifested by reduced pollution and waste, creating of green jobs, resource efficiency to be incorporated into all the segments of industries economy of Pakistan, aligned with international regulations like Hong Kong Convention and Marpol Conventions. There would be a boost in competitiveness. Circular practices can make Pakistan's ports and maritime services more attractive to international markets. And when we are going to move on international best practices, we are going to attract more investments into Pakistan. There would be improved maritime practices and like sustainable shipbreaking, and there would be optimized port operation, which would ultimately lower their operational cost and improve their efficiency. So while the circular economy practices might feel like a burden to the industry of Pakistan, in the long term, they would have a lot of benefits for the whole economy and for the industry as well, which needs to be conveyed to the industry. And I hope that seminars like this would going to serve that purpose. Thank you all. Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to the maritime sector's stakeholders talking points. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fasia, for such an extensive presentation and a detailed presentation that consisted of the stats and figures. I'm sure so many of us sitting here in Islamabad do not understand the significance of blue economy. We can talk about it, but we do not always understand how much it's important for Pakistan and crucial at this point, and why this sector has a huge potential. And I'm really glad you have shared and highlighted the immense potential that we have and also the existing challenges. So thank you so much. Now I would like to request our next speaker. I'm really delighted to be inviting Dr. Anil Salman, who's the Chair Economic Security at IPRI, which is a think tank. Sir, may I please request you if you can highlight or give an overview of circularity, particularly in the ship recycling industry. Yes, sir, over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Zainab. I'm just adding my presentation and then we formally start with that. And I hope my presentation is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Thank you. Well, first of all, congrats to SDPI and NEMA for picking up this topic. I'm sorry. For picking up this topic about this recycling and circular economy. But let me just talk about from the economic point of view how I feel about it. And one question to you, Zainab, that do we have any foreign participants or speakers over here, or it's only Pakistani people?
It's only Pakistani as of now. The speakers are Pakistani.
फिर हम अपनी लोगत में कुछ बोल सकते हैं अगर बोलना चाहें. शुक्रिया.
Sure, sir. Yeah.
Okay, so since when we talk about the circular economy, it's not very old, but it's not very recent also, and we have been
Dr. Anil, I think there's a disruption. Yes, I think we got you back now.
And the way economies are going on, we feel another way of looking at the world is going for the sustainability. And that sustainability is more of that you use the resources in such a way that the present and the future generation, we have the intergenerational equity. So when we look at this circular economy and ship recycling, let me just talk about that, what exactly we understand by circular economy. Number one is you are reducing the waste, you are reusing more and more, and you're recycling in a smarter way. And in this way, what we think that we have created a perpetual loop of resources instead of a one-way street when we're talking about the linear economies. But the question comes, given today's discussion, that why circular economy in the ship recycling? Number one reason is that it extends the material life cycles and it reduces the impact on the emissions. So it is environmental friendly. We have this Gadani shipyard, which was once at one point the world's largest. Now it's the third one, coming after India and Bangladesh. It provides steel recovery, but the biggest challenge what we face is the environmental and safety challenges. A lot of domestic research has been done. I can talk of PIDE, where students have done their MPhil thesis on this particular issue, that how recycling and circular economy at Gadani can be helpful. If we look at the global ship recycling scenario, there are approximately 1,000 ships reached at the end of each year. And in terms of the composition of a ship, there is 75 to 85% of the steel. Then there is aluminium and copper. And then there is hazardous waste like asbestos, lead, mercury, bilge oil. Now, these are the hazardous waste which are in the ship. And if we can see that there are 85% of the global ship recycling is happening in South Asia, that Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan is taking. The reason why we become the central hub for this ship recycling is not that we are the best, because the costs are low, economic reason, and we have a very weak environmental regulations. And our recycling output keep on fluctuating given the economic and regulatory conditions. Now, looking at this one, that how the steel production, what are the economic significance of this particular aspect? Number one is your steel production. Recycled steel that is coming from the ship breaking, it has a substantial portion of which covers the domestic demand of steel. And by this, the major impact is going to be reducing your import bill, because then you don't have to import the steel from outside. Number two is the employment benefits. Like this particular sector is going to provide direct and indirect employment opportunities. And the last one is basically that through revenues and through taxation, we can have a very good amount of revenue generation. Some of the revenue generation projections at EPRI, we from the while we were collecting, doing the calculation for the gross marine product of Pakistan. So I can share the publication if that's needed. Then this one, the circular economy, and how is important with the ship actually you can digitally track the components of recycling, the remanufacturing, and the reuse. Then there's a sustainable ship design for disassembly, and that is like you can easily have these modular designs that enable you to easily dismantle, and there is material recovery. Then there are certain alternative techniques for dismantling. For example, number one is your water jet cutting. And the benefit of water jet cutting is that it reduces the toxic emissions. And the second one is cryogenic cutting. That is the dry ice blasting, in which what we do is there's a non-toxic removal of coatings and asbestos. There is advanced technique also, that is waste to energy solutions, that is pyrolysis of oily sludge and bilge water to recover the fuel. And we have the plasma gasification for hazardous waste destruction. We have the green steel and metal recovery, which actually reduces the carbon emissions. But there are certain challenges and technical gaps when we're looking at Pakistan. The first and the foremost one is that the environmental and the health concerns, where we have the lack of contained recycling facilities. And you can see that if you are there at Gadani, like there's a hazardous substance leaching to soil and sea. Then there is asbestos and PCBs, which are causing major respiratory diseases. Why I'm saying that, there was a survey being done by one of our students at PI, and what he did was he looked at the health expenditures of the laborers working over there, and consistently and persistently the people working over there, they are having these respiratory and the groundwater contamination is there. So there are regulatory loops and the compliance challenges. I'll be talking it in detail in the next upcoming slides also. But what we see that, yes, we have the Basel Convention, we have the Hong Kong Convention, we have the MARPOL, but the implementation and the enforcement is still very weak. There is flags of convenience that allows the ship owners to evade environmental responsibility. That is also which we have seen very much happening. There's lack of infrastructure for sustainable recycling. Dedicated dry docks for contained dismantling, and there is very much limited kind of investment. You can look at the budget for the work safety and protective technology. Even the masks are not at times being provided. So what we see that there's a technological deficiency when we are trying to go for circularity, and that is that instead of going for robotic or automated processes, we are still going for the manual dismantling. This is a little bit about Gadani, but I think our previous speaker has already talked about it. But I can just say that it has 132 shipping plots, and it the super tankers. It has about 30,000 of the workers, and right now we are the third largest global this shipbreaking yard. Now coming on to the main crux, that why do we need to go for shipbreaking? What are the environmental and the social concerns, the social challenges with reference to this? Number one is, what about the waste management? What about the asbestos and this asbestos, heavy metals and the oils? What are we doing about it? Then there is marine pollution, which is affecting the local biodiversity. With reference to the social issues, the workers over there, they do not have the adequate protective measures. There's lack of healthcare and social security for the workers, and a lot of times these issues have been highlighted both on social media and coming on to that, what are the different frameworks that exists? The first one is the Basel Convention. In Basel Convention, it regulates the hazardous waste movement, but still there are loopholes that are existing. In Hong Kong International Convention, it requires ship recycling SRFs, ship recycling facilities, to be environmentally safe. We did ratify it in 2023, but it is yet to be enforced. EU ship recycling regulation, it bans the beaching method that is being used in Pakistan and requires then there's MARPOL and 5 and IMO guidelines, that is the rates the oil basis. But as we are talking about 2025, there has been some new frameworks. There has been new technologies that are that can be employed in the ship recycling, and that is artificial intelligence and robotics for dismantling. There is automated metal cutting and waste sorting systems. Then there is plasma arc gasification, in which toxic waste destruction with syngas, energy recovery, cryogenic, I already talked about, water jet, and bioremediation for oil spills and soil pollution. So these are the new ship recycling techniques which are being used, and I think Pakistan needs to invest into these technologies. Beyond the techniques, then this is the smart chip recycling that I already talked about, the AI. And if you presently look at the literature, and as the AI is actually showing that how machines and how these artificial intelligence models can actually reduce a remarkable cut in your costs. Number one, how they can improve your environmental quality by bringing efficiencies in it. Then we have these material passports, blockchain-based material passports, which actually give you the tracking system of all the components of the ship throughout its life cycle, and that makes the material recovery very efficient. Pakistan has a very good opportunity, because at the moment we do not have these opportunities, but we can introduce these AI-based sorting, and we can increase the recovery rates and reduce these techniques that really help and can really revamp shipping industry. Coming on to the new different more business models. The first one is the second life steel and metal markets. And number two is waste to energy from ship recycling residue. And actually use it in Gadani to reduce the hazardous waste. What are the emerging recycling technologies? I already talked about the alternative cutting methods, the plasma arc, the laser ablation. And what it can do is that it can make the material sorted out in a very convenient way, which is not just cost effective, which is not just environmental friendly. I think what we have to focus on that it is safer for the workers. How to apply this concept of circular economy in the Pakistan ship recycling industry? I think number one is the implementation of material passports. You can go for this cutting methods where you can actually dismantle it by using automation and the non-toxic cutting methods. And I think one of the important things is that in Pakistan, we mostly tend to work in silos. We have to make these bridges where there's an engagement between the government bodies, the industrial stakeholders, international organizations to promote the sustainable practices. MoMA, like just recently we had this Udan Pakistan, and we are the Ministry of Maritime Affairs is working to establish safe, sustainable, and internationally compliant ship recycling practices. We have this Federal Ship Recycling Act 2025. We got this Balochistan Safe and Environmental Sound Recycling of Shipping Bill 2024. And I think what objective is and what ministry should be pushing is that we need to align with the Hong Kong Convention, make sure that we have the environmental and sound management, hazardous waste management, protect the worker safety and strengthen it. How to do it? This is basically a timeline we at EPRI have developed. And what we have done is that we have divided into short-term, medium-term, and the long-term goal. The short-term goal is usually 1 to 3 years. The first one is that enforce, even though we have ratified, enforce the EKC compliance, implement the worker safety, and ban open burning and direct toxic dumping. So that is a short-term goal. For the midterm, I think establish Pakistan's first contained ship recycling facility, introduce waste management plans at the shipbreaking yards, and you need to go for this material passports for imported ships. I think that is definitely going to be a game changer. And in terms of the long term, I think Pakistan should move from 3 to number 1 as a global leader in green shipping recycling. We should invest in AI, robotics. Our AI policy is going to be out in maybe in a week's time, week or 2 weeks. So I think over there, we also mentioned about that how the AI can be used for the capacity building and for the industrial development and even in the maritime sector. And there needs to be in the long-term goals, we need to mandate a circular ship design principles for all the new shipboard boats. So coming on to the last part, that we have to have our commitment in action for sustainable and responsible ship recycling. We should embrace the principles of circular economy, where we can be one of the leaders in the ship breaking, in the ship recycling industry. And I think given this collaboration and network with all the stakeholders, that is a collective action that can transform the challenges into opportunities for the greater future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anil, for enlightening us with the key business models. They were really interesting, and also with the innovation that can be adopted. And I'm really looking forward to the vision that you have shared, that you have developed at IPRI in this context. I think this is very practical, and I hope that all the stakeholders here collaborate, discuss, and take it as a way forward. We'll definitely be getting in touch with you more for the integrating this in the National Circular Economy roadmap that we are developing, and it would be a value addition to the document. So thank you for your time, and I hope you stay with us so that we can take more questions just in case. Thank you. Now, I would like to request our next speaker for the session, Mr. Javed Iqbal, who is the CEO at Schwab Shipping Agencies. Sir, can you please deliberate on circularity in ship recycling industry, some of the key barriers that you think are there, and how can stakeholders collaborate to advance this industry? Over to you, sir. Sir, you're on mute. Can you please unmute?
Janab Sudari Sahab, Executive Director, SDPI, DG Nima, Vice Admiral Retired MS Saeed Sahab, honorable participants, today I stand before you to discuss an essential transformation in the maritime industry. That is the shift towards circularity in marine and ship recycling. It's an economic and social opportunity that can reshape how we think about sustainability in the shipping sector and ship recycling. The concept of a circular economy is built on 3 principles: eliminate waste and pollution, circulate products and materials, and regenerate nature. When applied to ship recycling, this means ensuring vessels are designed, operated, and dismantled in ways that maximize material recovery, minimize waste, and reduces environmental harm. Traditionally, in the past, ships were built, used, and eventually scrapped, often in environmentally harmful and unsafe conditions. However, now the things are changing across the world, and we all now need to work under the circular approach, which starts from the very beginning, from the designing vessels with modularity, recyclable materials, and longer lifespans in mind. Once a ship reaches the end of its service life, the focus shifts to safe, responsible dismantling that recovers valuable steel, aluminium, and a wide range of other materials for reuse in new vessels or other industries. This model of one is the economic gains from recovered materials, reduced carbon footprint by decreasing virgin resources, job creation and safer regulated recycling yards, marine ecosystem protection through responsible waste handling. The IMO and the HKC Convention for the Safe and Environmentally Sound Recycling of Ships provide a regulatory framework, but circularity depends more than compliance of HKC. It requires a fundamental redesign of our approach to ships from cradle to cradle. However, this vision isn't without challenges. Let's talk about the barriers to adoption. Some of the main barriers we can highlight is under number one, economic pressures. Many ship owners still prioritize cheaper recycling options, which often lead to unsafe, polluting methods and unregulated facilities. Sustainable recycling yards, particularly those certified under the HKC or the EU regulations, are costlier, creating a financial disincentive. Lack of infrastructure. Many countries lack modern, environmentally sound recycling facilities. Upgrading infrastructure requires significant investment and international collaboration. Complex ship structures. Ships are built to endure the toughest conditions. Blending steel, hazardous materials like asbestos, and complex electronic systems. Dismantling them safely and efficiently is a highly technical challenge that needs innovation in both design and decommissioning process. Number four, regulatory gaps and enforcement. While global enforcement varies widely across the regions. Some nations prioritize economic gain over environmental or safety standards, leading to flag hopping, where vessels register under flag of convenience to avoid stricter recycling regulations. Number five, knowledge gaps and cultural inertia. Ship owners, operators, and even recycling yards may lack awareness or training on circular practices. Many still view ship recycling as a waste management issue, not an opportunity for value recovery. To overcome these barriers, collaboration among stakeholders is critical. Let's break it down. Shipbuilders and designers must rethink ship construction, prioritizing materials that are easier to recover, modular components, and designs that simplify dismantling. Ship owners and operators must take accountability for vessels' entire life cycle. Green financing, incentives for sustainable recycling, and transparency in end-of-life decisions are essential. Recycling yards must adopt safer, greener practices. This requires investment in better technology and training to ensure governments and international bodies must harmonize regulations, ensuring that all nations can play a role by refusing access to vessels flagged under non-compliant registries. The financial sector can incentivize circular practices through green loans, often overlooked stakeholders. Shipping companies to prioritize industry is at crossroads. Circularity in ship recycling is no longer an idealistic vision. It's an achievable, necessary transformation. While barriers remain, they are not insurmountable. With the right policies, innovations, and most importantly, collaboration among the stakeholders, we can create a maritime future that values our oceans, our resources, and the lives of those working in this critical sector. Let's commit to rethinking ships, reimagining, recycling, and embracing circularity, because the oceans that connect us all deserve nothing less. Availing this opportunity, let me briefly add a few things for the audience. That while the industry is fast working towards compliance with HKC and adoption of modern ship recycling techniques at a phenomenal cost on our own, without any support, either from the government or any other institution whatsoever. Moreover, the Ministry of Commerce, Ministry of Industries, FBR, and others, in spite of repeated requests, correspondences, and personal visits, has so far failed to provide any relief to the shipbreaking industry. It's just talk, hold seminars, conferences, photo shoots, so on and so forth, but in reality, no change on the ground whatsoever. The government policy makers do not seem to understand the importance of this industry. Even our long outstanding demand to accept the ship recycling as an industry, the Federal Ministry of Industries is completely silent. No response, no action, reasons unknown. It seems nobody wants to do anything except just talk, promise, fill up the files and forget. Let me also add a few words for our very close friends at NEMA. Sir, please use your good offices to get our issues resolved. NEMA being a powerful think tank in the marine sector, please act proactively for the shipbreaking of the recycling industry, beside organizing seminars and symposiums, as we very much count on you. One more request to NEMA: to obtain the industry's fullest participation in your seminars and symposium, please organize it in Karachi or Gadani too, to have the optimum inputs from Pakistan Shipbreakers Association. Please also intimate us of any such plans at least 2 weeks prior to the event, so we can make our participation fruitful and interesting for all.
Thank you so much, Javed Saab, and thank you for raising the pertinent points here. I'm sure that the stakeholders will be getting in touch with you, and your points are really valid. I look forward to, the purpose of this webinar is, let me talk to you from somebody who's living in Islamabad. Like, I cannot understand the challenges that you are facing there, right? So only because of this webinar, I got to know that these are also the challenges, right? So it's always important that industry's voice, they are given a voice and a platform so that they keep on sharing these challenges that they face. So we can expect from the stakeholders that they listen to you, they'll understand the context, and you get together for this important sector. Thank you so much for joining us today and your sharing. Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you very much.
I'm moving forward to the next session. That's on policy and regulatory frameworks, and it will be focusing around the Hong Kong Convention, European Union Ship Recycling Regulation, policy gaps and opportunities for Pakistan, and also how compliance can be enforced. I'll also request the participants. I'll also request the participants to please wait till the speakers share their interventions, and then you can raise your hands, and we will be happy to take your questions in the end. Now, I would now invite Commander Anis Khan, author of HKC book and senior researcher at NEMA, for his interventions, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am Zainab. I am really grateful, and on the lighter part, because a lot of speaker has already diverged on the topic, so you have to bear me at the cost of repetition. Sir Javed, Assalamu alaikum. Particularly during the research on this by the NEMA, Sir Javed was very cooperative with us, and probably we would not have been able to find out the whatever we have written unless we have the full cooperation of the PSPA and Sir Javed in particular.
I'm really sorry, sir, for interruption. Can you please share the slides in slideshow mode so that the audience can see?
Is it fine now?
Yes, it is.
So this is the topic which has been given to me. Circularity in the ship recycling industry, policy gaps and opportunities for Pakistan in light of IMO, ILO, Hong Kong Convention and EU SSR. A few of the speaker has already spoken on this, but I'd like to divulge whatever I have written, and I probably would be skipping few slides which has already been deliberated. Now, what's the definition of ship recycling in terms of the circularity, which we are talking right now? Ship recycling is the process of dismantling end-of-life ships to recover and reuse materials, as said a number of times, while safely disposing of hazardous waste, ensuring environmental sustainability and maximizing economic value. That is the circularity. So in terms of ship recycling, the circularity really fits into it, because you dismantle a ship and you use the part of the ship. Now, if you are not able to use part of the ship to the fully, you are not contributing to the concept. So unless we really adhere to the safety regulation, we cannot have the concept of circularity. Now, here comes the HKC and the USSR and the safe practices and the policy gaps, which subsequently will be telling. Now, the ship recycling industry in Gadani, a lot has been said. There are more than 130 yards over there. Hundreds are with the private sector, 35 or 32 are with the Baltistan Development Authority, out of which probably 15 are practically doing the ship recycling. Others are dormant. The economic significance has already been said. We are earning a lot of money, but we could earn 30%, 40% more than what we are earning right now. The global importance is very important because the average life of a ship is around 22.5 years. And at the moment, 68% of the world shipping, which is more than 1 lakh ship, is around 15 years. So the next 10 years, we are expecting around 15,000 ships, which would be recycled. And once they are recycled, they obviously would be coming to the area, that is Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. So that's add to the significance of the circularity and of the economy and of the importance of this sector. Now, it's not easy to reuse the things in the ship recycling because it's a very dangerous business, because UN ILO has declared ship recycling as one of the most dangerous and hazardous occupations. Why is ship recycling dangerous? It's dangerous because it's an informal sector, because this developing part of the world, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, have not yet been able to formalize it in light of the Western protocol of HKC and Basel and USSR. We have the environmental hazard, safety hazard because of the above reason. There are, because of the lack of the practices, risk of explosions, worker lab protective gear. Rather, they are very innocent. They do not know that they're right to have the safety gear. And of course, the monitoring system from the government sector is not very encouraging. The BDA, Baltistan Development Authority, is the official regulator of it, and it's a provincial subject, and a lot has to be done in this. Its economic potential has already been said, but I just want to say that if we comply with the international regulation, we can increase the revenue by over 30%. And we can have 20,000 more workers who can benefit directly from this. Now, what is circularity in the ship recycling? Circularity in ship recycling emphasizes minimum waste, as said by one of the speakers, by reusing and recycling material from end of life. Now, in the most common layman word for my audience, which comprise of the students, as you have said, in Lasbela and Gawadar and maybe a lot of more, better the recycling practices at shipbreaking yards. More will be sustainable recovery and reuse of items from UL ships, so more circularity. So this is ABC, very simple. Concept of circularity is a closed loop system where materials are repurposed and reducing waste and maximizing benefits, as I have already said. Key principles are the reduction, reuse, and recycling. Already a few of the speaker has said, so I'm not really going much into this thing. Now, why it matter? It matter because if you'll be using the safe ship recycling, we will be minimizing the landfill waste. When we say landfill waste, we mean the oil which is dripping from the part which we take from the ship. The hazardous waste drip into the soil, which is an environmental degradation sort of a thing. Rest of the points are already discussed. Now, ship recycling plays a crucial role in sustainable waste management, and Hong Kong Convention and EU-SSR promote sustainable practices through international standards. As I've said, if you're using these regulations, we will be doing the environment-friendly dismantling, and subsequently a recycling would be done where every part would be able to use, which will add to the economy and into circularity. Now, Hong Kong Convention was signed in 2009. Presently, it has 24 members. Pakistan has signed this thing in November 2023. And as per the regulatory framework, we have to abide by this by 26 June 2025, which is just a few months after this. And if we are not able to do, strictly speaking, the IMO will not allow our yards to carry out ship recycling. Its key requirement are safe, environmentally sound recycling procedures, certification and compliance, and worker safety. Now, it has 21 article, 25 regulation, which are all, allow me to say all, revolve around safe ship recycling. If you will do safe ship recycling, you will have more circularity. So HKC is the backbone of the circularity if complied. EU ship recycling is slightly more detailed than even HKC, because EU ship recycling bar any yard which is in the European Union to carry out ship recycling unless they adhere to these practices. Now, HKC is the worldwide, EU is limited to the EU countries only. There are operational health and safety challenges: lack of safety equipment, untrained workforce, lack of medical care, workplace injuries. And now waste management. Metal recycling is steel, copper, and other metals. There is very limited recycling of these things because we are not adhering to the safe practices as of now. And of course, it is doing the environmental damage. Now, while Nima was doing the research on the ship recycling, what we understand, where we are lacking in this, there is legislation issues. The yards are not certified. BDA regulations need to be more amplified. There are lack of documentation. This inspection process is marred with lapses by the Balochistan Environment Protection Authority and the Balochistan Development Authority need improvement. Rather, these agencies do not have the professional wherewithal to undertake, even if they so desire. PSBA, Sajaved is here. They want some guarantees from the state. They want that the yard should be leased to them for a lot more year. Only then they are willing to invest in the yards. So this is their point, which we respect. But the resultant is that they are not investing fully for the upgradation of the yards because they have their own reservation. Although at the end, I'll tell you what PSBA is doing now and what are the positive things. Glass is always half filled. There is no concept of the one window operation. There is no the hazardous waste disposal. Really need to re-look into it. The process of identification and ultimate disposal is one of the key points of the Hong Kong Convention and the EU-SSR, which really need to look into it. However, it's still lagging. Now, the operational gaps are the lack of modern recycling infrastructure, inadequate waste management facilities for hazardous material, and no formal monitoring system for compliance. Now, if I just broadly say about all the articles and the regulations, these are the operational gaps which need to be filled. We have a lot of opportunities to attract international investors by aligning with these regulations because they are very elementary. If we will not do, IMO Secretary General has visited and he was very clear and crisp in this thing that unless your yards are compliant, we would not be able to really give you business. However, he was flexible in the way that he was saying that even if you're not able to do completely, show us something, which I'm sure PSBA and the Government of Assam are doing right now. This, what I've said before, these are the issues. These issues are to be solved like this. There is legislative and regulatory gaps. Now, HKC say that once you sign me, you have to incorporate my postulates into your local legislation. Now, the federal government and the Balochistan government are doing this thing for last 1 year. And I had a discussion with Sajaved on this. I am not really fully aware where is the legislation right now, but that is the foundation. And the 18 constitutional amendment is a big impediment in this because the federal government has a different view while the Balochistan government has a different view on the subject. We need to establish a recycling authority. We need to have one window operation. We need to have capacity building, and a lot of things to be done. If all that is done, only then we can have the complete concept of the circularity. Now, there is certain tangible action which has been taken by the by different stakeholders. Like the 2 to 3 draft of SIP Recycling Acts has been exchanged, and a lot has been done. SIFC is lately into it, and it is spearheading the effort to resolve the issue. The government of Norway has earmarked 1.7 million for the implementation of HKC in Pakistan. However, we are still awaiting. NEMA is expecting that it will be the consultant for the IMO for the implementation as per our last talk. However, nothing tangible has been given to us. There was a ribbon cutting by the Secretary General for construction of the Common Hazardous Waste Facility, which is very, very important. At Gadani, we have the area available for the hazardous waste facility. However, it's a very expensive thing, and even the India and Bangladesh have taken money from the JICA and Norway for the construction of that. So this is beyond the PSBA or the government of Balochistan. It has to be at the federal level with the co-partners. At the federal and provincial level, 12 billion has been earmarked for the government for the development of Gadani. So these are very good omen, which subsequently can really help us. PSBA is upgrading 12 yards to a German consultant in light of the HKC, and I'm very sure that by 26 June we can hope that at least we can have 2-3 yards which are HKC compliant. BDA is operationalizing a water plant at Gadani. Pakistan Maritime Security and JMICC are streamlining their inspection-related procedure, and NEMA has forwarded a detailed gap analysis study, as you have said, Ma'am Zainab, to the Norway for the implementation with tangible guidelines starting from December 24 till June 26 and onward. Now, this is a slide which I have prepared, which clearly say that if we would comply these regulations, what dividends we can get out of it. Now, if we would comply with the safety regulations, the projected financial gains can be up to $2 to $3 billion annually in scrap metal scale. So a lot of boost to the GDP, and this is only possible once we do these safety compliance practices at the Gadani shipbreaking yard. That would entail us to use all the parts fully, and once we are able to use all the parts fully, it would be recycled in the economy, and once it is recycled, so every part would generate money and the overall amount would increase, and the circularity concept would blossom more. Pakistan could increase the shipbreaking volume by 30% if compliant. Of course, as said, it would have reduced import dependency on material of the steel, because probably there are different statistics from 15% to 35% of the steel demand of country is met by the ship recycling, and rest by the it's coming from there. So if it is more, the import would be less. 40 to 50% reduction in hazardous waste pollution, which is very, very obvious. Creation of more than 5,000 additional jobs, which would fetch around $500 million saving in long-term environment and health costs, as said before as well. And if we'll be doing this thing, even the EU SSR countries, that is European countries, can also give their ships to us, which can be of great help. So we can have even 200 to 400 million annually boost to the local economy if modernized. Overall, we can be expecting whatever we are, if we are earning 10 rupees today, if we comply by this, we obviously will be earning around between 30 rupees to 35 rupees, even in next 2 years. What are the policy recommendations for the Pakistan? There are short-term actions: incorporate HKC into national maritime policy. National maritime policy is already under discussion, and ship recycling is one of the main part of it. Yes, I'm very glad we attended the meeting recently, and I'm very sure that this would somehow be incorporated in that, because when it is part of the policy document, only then it can be really implemented. We need to improve the yards layout, which is the very basic and work and training program. I'm very sure PSBA would be working in conjunction with the government of Balochistan on this, and a lot has been done, because 12 billion rupees has already been earmarked for this project by the government of Balochistan. And we need to have a systematic inventory mechanism for hazardous material. This is a very, very weak point. This is only possible if we have a one window operation. There is a big building. Grey structure is already complete at Gadani, which would be the one window operation building, and this is suggested by the NEMA as well. All the stakeholders should sit over there. This model is already in practice in India and Bangladesh, and we have to comply with this if we really want to do this thing. Long term, we have to invest in modern ship recycling yards overall. We cannot just have 2-3 model yards and we can just do this thing. We have 135 yards. We need to develop at least 30 yards in next 3 to 4 years. Only then we can really improve the economy. Strict regulatory framework is required. Our laws are there, but we are not implementing them as such because of the lower level practices of looking at the other way as well, which is part of our culture, but which is very bad. And above all, we need to have in all the industry, we need to have public-private partnership to enhance sustainability. Presently, PSBA has fixed members, and there are 25 to 30 stakeholders, including Shoaib Industries, who are doing this thing. So more people has to come into this thing. Only then it will flourish. In the conclusion, I'll just say that circularity in ship recycling is essential for sustainability, as evidently said by me and by all the speakers before me. Pakistan must bridge policy gaps, as suggested by NEMA in its complete report, and I just jotted a few points of that. Collaboration between government, industry, and international stakeholders is key to success. Ship recycling industry is no exception. Like any other industry, this is the step. Next step, if I say immediately, is immediate policy reforms, infrastructure investment, and international cooperation. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving us a very detailed introduction on the regulation side and also on, the practical steps that are lacking at this point. And one thing that I'm hearing over and over and again is the collaboration between the government, private sector, and all other key stakeholders. I think that's missing at this point. But of course, we have our chief guest also. We'll be listening from you, sir. But before you, I would like to request and invite Rear Admiral Salman Ilyas, Managing Director, Karachi Shipyard and Engineering Works, for his intervention. Yes, sir, over to you, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman Rahim. Vice Admiral Ahmed Saeed, DG NEMA, Ms. Zainab Naim, the SDPI representative conducting the seminar, and all those who can hear me over the cyberspace. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. Well, first of all, I think I'm a little misfit over here because I'm a shipbuilder, not a shipbreaker. So my conversation will certainly and probably be referring to some of the aspects which have been cursory touched during the discussion. And so I'll try to clarify some of the things that we need to understand when all this circularity comes to point zero again, and where we actually build the ship, the cradle part of this circularity. As a shipbuilder, let me first introduce Karachi Shipyard. We exist since 1956 and in silent service to this nation are doing a number of things in the domain of shipbuilding, submarine construction, ship repair, and general engineering. Along with this, I also have a shipyard training school, which is providing valuable trade training to our boys and girls to empower them with technical skills so that they can work either in shipyard or across Pakistan, and if they are lucky, find jobs outside of Pakistan. Overall, the shipbuilding industry is a handicapped industry in Pakistan, unlike sugar, textile, and so many other things, which make much more money than what we do in shipbuilding. However, it's an essential industry. It's an industry which is known as a nation-building industry, and industries related to the actual process, what we do here, can actually change the destiny of a nation, as it did for China, for USA, for Korea, Japan, and so many other countries. So we need to bring the real focus back to shipbuilding so that we remain vibrant and viable to provide necessary input to the national economy. So there's a lot of emphasis here in Karachi Shipyard with respect to indigenous shipbuilding. And indigenous shipbuilding primarily start with design and availability of the kit of material. Luckily, Pakistan today has two design houses fully functional in Pakistan. One with NASSCOM and the other with Pakistan Navy. And they are producing design which have been built or are under construction at Karachi shipyard. The second part is, of course, the kit of material. Now that is the point O of your circularity. Unfortunately, there is nobody in Pakistan that can produce that kit of material which is shipbuilding compliant. That is, it is classified by the classification societies, which can then subsequently be transformed into a working platform that we can take to sea. So I would like to clarify a few things here at the onset. First of all, there was discussion on the design. As you know, and probably most of us have seen ships, traveled in ships, or visited a ship. A ship is a complex structure. It cannot be made like a Lego blocks, which can easily be dismantled for the sake of dismantling. We will continue to build ships which are robust, well welded, and well honed in terms of enduring high seas. So the technology that goes into building these ships will always be intense. It will be full of emissions, and it will be high on heat as well. So the ships will remain to be welded. They remain to be very robust. And once you actually start to intervene to dismantle them, it is not easy for the designer to build them for dismantling. They are built to last, not to be dismantled. So that challenge cannot be addressed on a drawing board, that for the sake of dismantling the ship after 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you make it a weak structure or a structure that can easily be taken away through nuts and bolts. Having said that, the technologies, the material that go inside a ship cannot be recycled completely. Just imagine you want to build a new house for yourself. Will you go and buy second-hand brick? Will you go and buy second-hand paint? Will you probably buy a little bit of second-hand furniture? But the rest of most of the fittings that you will put in a brand new house will ultimately be brand new. So not everything of the ship can be recycled and should not be recycled. Some of the work for the purpose of new shipbuilding. The primary material that can be taken out after extensive cutting and dismantling is as being discussed, is the steel or other materials associated like copper, aluminium, and any other metal that can be taken out, remelted and reshaped in either in the form of plates or in the form of fittings. When it comes to cables, mostly cables are thrown away or brought into a market here in Sher Shah, and they can be bought at a much cheaper price and put in elsewhere in use. The moving machinery, they are second-hand machinery. No new ship will ever have an old engine installed into it for the sake of saving money, because new shipbuilding is a very serious business. Similarly, no furniture probably will come back into the new ship. No insulation, paint of course cannot be recycled, and so many other things. So conceptually, the point O of the circularity primarily will always remain recycling the steel. And the designer will always make that steel structure so robust that you have to have some kinetic method to cut it and bring it back and melt it. Now, when it comes to who will do it, unfortunately, in Pakistan, nobody produces class certified steel. We need class certified steel to build class certified ships. So who is going to invest in it? Yes, the steel that comes out of Gadani and elsewhere goes to melting processes, and the steel that comes out is general purpose steel. Yes, it has some class certification, ASTM, BS, EU, whatever, but it is commercial steel. It cannot be used for shipbuilding. So that's a huge challenge. So whatever recommendations are made with respect to circularity, we need to bring in classification societies, and the industry has to adopt to the procedures of the class certification and acquire those certification, those stringent certification, whereby particular type of steel, which is marine grade, is produced in the country. Now, expanding this discussion, and of course, we are interchangeably using the word circularity, sustainability, green, recycling, etc., etc. There are certain other things that can be done in shipbuilding, and those primarily are associated with the process of shipbuilding. The process of shipbuilding primarily today are not neat and clean. Having said all that, Karachi Shipyard still makes an endeavor to make some of the processes when it comes to ship repair and shipbuilding green in respect with respect to managing oil and other waste that we generate or extract out of the ships that we repair or build over here. So we responsibly dispose of our waste. We responsibly dispose of the oil and other waste that comes out of it. We also take special care that we do not buy or source materials which are banned under HKC. So that is strictly enforced, and whenever we make a tender, we make sure that that doesn't come into the system. Similarly, we try to educate our human resource to be more responsible. But once we look at how the nation behaves, this is again very challenging. So we try to make them more responsible, keep the yard clean, keep the processes clean, and minimize the wastage as much as possible. We also try to have a best possible energy management system over here, because we need to decarbonize and we need to keep our carbon footprint less. So we make an endeavor while buying alternate fossil fuel or alternate fuels are challenging in Pakistan. We try to keep our machinery well tuned up. There is a lot of talk of solar energy. We have solar energy installed. But having said that, when it comes to transportation, the only transportation that is EV offered in Pakistan is those expensive models, which of course nobody will buy except those who can actually pay for them. We try to put in a lot of process efficiency, whereby some of the things mentioned, like water jet blasting and safely, we put a lot of emphasis on safety over here. Similarly, I wish we can actually move on to the I 4.0 standard, that is robotics, automation, AI, and others. However, shipbuilding industry as it stands in Pakistan today is not a production line, a standard item production line facility. Every project is different, every process is different, and it's not repetitive. So there are a number of challenges that we face with respect to adopting to that. So while not taking more of your time, while the topic is of the circularity, in Pakistan, there are serious challenges if you really want to enforce this circularity when it comes to shipbuilding. There are issues with respect of the cost, who will pay for it. There is an issue with respect to economy of scale. There's no support, lack of support from the local industry for sustainability. People want shortcuts. People want to make quick money. And it's a serious business. And of course, there's a lack of priority at a national level to adopt sustainability or all sectors. And I'm sure all those learned speakers who have spoken before me and will speak subsequently, the common problem is policy implementation of the law of the land, and then ultimately the seriousness of the stakeholders. And of course, there is low awareness among us as Pakistanis. We are sea blind. There is sea blindness. There is no priority of maritime sector. We actually do not understand how good the blue economy can bring to Pakistan, how much potential there is to tap, and how much employment and other benefits it can generate. So to conclude, the perspective of a shipbuilder like me of Karachi Shipyard is very linear and very simple. And what little that can be done in terms of circularity is I've shared with you. And hopefully in the policy formulation, as it's happening across Pakistan, hopefully in a focused way, the shipping policy, the maritime policy, all needs to have all these components addressed. And of course, somebody has to walk the talk, and people need to then walk this talk. I would just like to add and mention another point. There is a serious implementation process going on through the Prime Minister Task Force on Revamping Maritime Sector. This issue may also be shared at that forum, so that it remains comes into focus, and thereafter there is some tangible actions taken for favorable result. I can share with you, our serious engagement with this task force has resulted in implementation of a number of recommendations which are super supportive to indigenous shipbuilding. Now the ports are bound to give us work to build support vessels for the port. So now they have put up a plan, and we, Alhamdulillah, have signed the first contract to build the mooring boats for KPT. This should be followed by mooring boats with the PQA and other crafts for the port authorities. While Navy and others gave us, and Maritime Security Agency gave us orders as in shipbuilding, the other needs to step in and make shipbuilding vibrant. And may I pray that one day this Circularity 0.0, we source the steel from Pakistan, which is fully certified. So may Allah help us and succeed us. So thank you very much for giving us time. Allah Hafiz. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. And I think many of your points that you have raised here will be answered by the chief guest, hopefully. Just one last speaker before I invite the chief guest. And sir, also, if you have time and can stay with us till the chief guest finishes his speech. So just last, I'll be happy if you can share the recommendations on what should become part of the policy document in the end. So thank you for highlighting very pertinent and important points here. And I'm sure many of the points will be answered by the chief guest. Thank you. So without further ado, last speaker of the last session, which is on financing and innovations and sustainable ship recycling. I would like to invite Commodore Rahil Masood, retired author of HKC book and senior research at National Institute of Maritime Affairs. Sir, can you please discuss the opportunities and challenges for innovation and investment in sustainable ship recycling technologies for Pakistan? Over to you. And also, if you can put your slides on slideshow mode. Thank you so much. Yes, it's visible now.
Thank you so much, Zainab. In this session, we will basically be exploring the opportunities and challenges for innovation and investment in sustainable ship recycling technologies for Pakistan, aiming to chart a course towards a more sustainable and equitable future. Before proceeding further into the main subject, it is imperative to understand certain key drivers. And this coming decade or the ongoing decade is so very important for Pakistan to take the right decisions at the right moment now. The global merchant ships fleet is around 109,000. New build ships percentage would increase by about 7 to 12% per annum, driven by aging, regulatory compulsions like decarbonization goals, IMO's regulation, and trade growth. They aggressively compelling the old fleet to scrap. Historically, from 2014 to 2024, ships have served even for 50 years with an average life of 27.5 years. The ship's life is now particularly defined to be 15 to 20 years, depending on the type of platform. Ship breaking is a compulsory requirement, as already discussed in the global maritime equation. It paves the way for new inductions, keeps the backyards clean, and is an important component of many national economies. The coming decade is poised for the recycling industry's business growth. The ship recycling market is anticipated to expand from 2024 to 2035. In the short term, 5 to 10% of the ships may be laid off this year, with over 800 ships available for disposal. Midterm projection indicates the laying of 1,000 to 1,500 ships per annum by 2028. While long-term needs suggest an average of 1,500 ships per annum to be recycled until 2035. This looming wave of ship retirements, estimated at around 15,000 ships, accounts for 12.5% of the global fleet to be recycled from 2025 to 2035, doubling the number of the ships recycled in the last 10 years. As of recent estimates, the global ship recycling capacity stands at approximately 12 million LDT annually. Global capacity may face challenges. If fleet recycling reaches to 0.4% of the global fleet by 2026, existing yards could handle the load, but a 3% recycling rate might lead to a capacity shortage of 1.75 million LDT by 2026. Rising to 3.25 million LDT by 2035. Nevertheless, it is estimated that innovations in recycling processes could yield around 4.5 trillion in economic benefits by 2030. This is the point that I want to emphasize, highlighting the sector's potential for growth and efficiency as sustainability becomes a priority. With this background, we shall just see the evolution of ships breaking. The green is now we are into the green ship recycling. This is where we should target Pakistan to be. This shipbreaking process is finally treated to recover maximum material that is reusable. It provides direct and indirect livelihood to a multitude of personnel and feeds over 30 downstream industries, recovering valuable materials and products. The major material recovered is the high-quality steel. Steel production through recycling conserves natural resources and generates carbon credit, thereby incentivizing environmentally sustainable practices. The industry aligns with the principles of circular economy. From 2014 to 2024, approximately 7,559 ships have been dismantled globally. And out of these, 5,209 ships in Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan have been dismantled. Pakistan taking about 16.5% of the share. In 2024, Pakistan could take only 5 ships at Gadani Beach, the most discouraging business profile during the past decade. This can be appreciated from this graph. Now, if you look at Turkey is on the rising curve. One reason is that they have undertaken the reformations of the yards as per the EU SSR. And secondly, that their policies have been aligned with the dictates of the EU SSR. The global steel demand for 2032 is estimated to be 2.2 billion metric tons. The steel demand for Pakistan in 2032 is projected to be 21.5 million tons. The demand for recycled steel will continue to support the ship recycling industry's viability, predominantly because of cheaper cost and low carbon footprints. Besides meeting the local steel demand, Pakistan can even position itself as a steel exporter. While the economically valuable Pakistan's ship recycling industry faces mounting pressure to transition from traditional beaching methods which pose serious environmental and occupational hazards towards sustainable practices aligned with circular economy principles and international standards. The beaching method predominant in Gadani involves running vessels aground at high tide and dismantling them directly on the beach. This approach results in inadequate worker safety protocols in protective equipment, uncontrolled release of hazardous material into waters, non-compliance with international environmental standards, inefficient resource recovery and material separation. Now, this slide shows the recovery of hazardous waste from 2014 to 2024. The reading in red can be appreciated. These are the hazardous waste material recovered in Pakistan. With regards to safety, this is the figure from 2014 to 2024 of the casualties resulting at the Gadani shipyard.
May I please request you if you can conclude?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now I come to the opportunities for innovation. Significant opportunities exist for green ship recycling technologies, innovation in Pakistan's ship recycling sector. With impermeable platforms and containment system to prevent leakage of hazmats into marine environment, it represents a primary investment opportunity. Automated AI-based robotic cutting and separation systems for precision cutting and material sorting can improve resource recovery rates while reducing worker exposure to hazardous conditions. AI-based digital inventory and tracking systems for hazmat identification and management throughout the recycling process could enhance compliance with international standards. Pre-cleaning technologies for the removal and safe handling of hazmats before primary dismantling would significantly reduce environmental impacts. Adopting circular economy principles offers multifaceted opportunities. Advanced material recovery technologies that enable high recovery rates for valuable materials beyond steel, including copper, aluminum, and rare materials, can create new revenue streams. Value-added processing through secondary industries that process and upcycle recovered materials could generate additional economic value and employment. Waste to energy system to convert non-recyclable ship components into energy could provide power for recycling operation, reducing an operating cost. Byproduct utilization can be achieved by developing markets and applications for byproducts of the recycling processes. The transition to sustainable ship recycling through green financing international partnership presents opportunities for climate finance access, wherein Pakistan can leverage international climate finance mechanism. Technical cooperation partnerships can be achieved with countries that have advanced ship recycling technologies, as already discussed by Dr. Anil. Certification and market access to achieve compliance with international standard is imperative, and this must be achieved as soon as possible. Research and development. Now coming to the challenges to sustainable transformation, it is the technical infrastructure limitations, high initial investment, and capital expenditure needed for modernizing facilities present a significant barrier, particularly for smaller operators. The workforce and management may lack the necessary technical skills and knowledge to implement and operate advanced technologies. Inadequate infrastructure, including power, supply roads, and transportation networks, waste management system, fresh water, hinder the adoption of modern recycling approaches. The physical characteristics of Gadani and its location may present challenges for implementing certain technologies developed for different contexts. Regulatory and governance challenges, when we discuss about, it is the enforcement capacity due to limited resources for monitoring and ensuring compliance with environmental and safety regulation that undermines effective implementation. Policy fragmentation due to overlapping responsibilities and lack of clarity among government agencies creates regulatory inefficiencies and implementation gaps. International standards alignment to harmonize national regulations with international frameworks like the Hong Kong Convention or the EUSSR, which requires significant legal and institutional reforms. Balancing the formalization of the industry with the livelihood of those in the formal sector represents complex governance and challenges. Market and economic barriers, as far as the concern, the sustainable operations typically incur higher costs, potentially reducing Pakistan's competitive edge in global ship recycling marketing. Fluctuation in global steel prices and shipping market conditions create investment risk. The cost of sustainable practices are borne by recyclers, while the benefits often accrue to other stakeholders, creating misaligned incentives. Industry focus on immediate returns may discourage investment in technologies with longer payback period. What strategies should be adopted? Firstly, with regards to the policy and regulatory framework, it is imperative to develop a cohesive policy framework that integrates environmental protection, worker safety, occupational health capability building, and economic development objectives. It is essential to establish a realistic timeline for transforming to sustainable practices, allowing industry adaptation while maintaining steady progress. There is a need to give tax benefits, subsidies, and preferential financing for investment in green technologies and infrastructure. There is a need to organize capacity building programs to strengthen regulatory institutions through training, resources, and international technical assistance. With regards to international investment and financing mechanism, combining public and private capital into a blended finance model may be considered to reduce investment risks and attract commercial financing for sustainable ship recycling projects. It is essential to develop a specialized financial instruments like green bond and sustainability linked loans to fund the transition to sustainable practices. Technology leasing programs may be established that allow recyclers to lease advanced equipment, reducing upfront investment barriers. Public-private partnerships may be created between government, industry, and international partners to share investment cost and risk. Lastly, social and gender equity. Implement skills initiatives focused on equipment workers, including women with skills required for operating advanced technologies. Gender responsiveness may be designed to ensure women's participation in decision-making and access to opportunities in the modernized industry. Local communities must be engaged in planning and implementing sustainable ship recycling projects to ensure equitable benefit distribution. Lastly, must establish mechanism for the social safety nets to support workers during the transition phase, particularly those from the marginalized communities. I thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I would now like to invite the chief guest, who is Mr. Abdul Sattar Kokar, Senior Joint Secretary, Ministry of Maritime Affairs, Islamabad, for his intervention, please.
Thank you very much, Ms. Zainab. I'm sorry, I have to attend another meeting at 1 p.m., so I'll try to rush through my comments. Honorable guests and dear participants, Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon. Thanks to SDPI for inviting me here. It's a pleasure to be here amongst you and to speak essentially on the effective and efficient measures to help transform shipbreaking into ship recycling, where ship is recycled in a more safe and environmentally friendly manner, and the components retrieved therefrom are recycled for consumption. The objective here remains to engage in the business of ship recycling in a more sustainable and environmentally friendly manner. An important question that may arise here is the need for Hong Kong Convention, when Basel Convention was already in place. It was argued that the Basel Convention on the control of transboundary movement of hazardous waste and their disposal, while relevant to hazardous waste management, did not specifically address the complexities of ship recycling, leaving a gap in the international legal framework. The Hong Kong Convention adopts cradle-to-grave approach, which essentially translates into covering the complete life cycle of a ship, that is, from construction to recycling. Those who have gone through the convention would know that an important component of the convention is the control and management of inventory of hazardous materials, also known as, and further references to be quoted as, IHM. Lastly, the convention focuses on enforcement of safe and environmentally sound ship recycling. I would briefly touch upon the convention. In this regard, the convention deals with shipbuilding, ship construction, operational life of the ships, and lastly, the ship recycling. At each stage, the convention emphasizes upon maintaining, monitoring, and mitigating the risk of IHM. Once the ship has reached its end of life, it shall be recycled as per a detailed ship recycling plan at one of the authorized ship recycling facilities, and such facilities are only authorized by the provincial competent authority after they have satisfied the requirements of the convention. During the process of recycling, the facility has to comply with safety requirements in order to minimize any eventuality. The emphasis here is laid upon minimizing adverse event, as elimination in such industry is too idealistic to be achieved. The minimization aspect is broad, such that it relates to happening of an eventuality, harm, injury, or death of a person engaged in ship recycling during the process, protecting the environment from harmful waste and disposal of waste, so on and so forth. In this regard, special care is needed and protocols are mandated to be followed. The convention mandates establishing treatment, storage, and disposal facility of harmful and hazardous wastes. It would be safe to suggest that since the ratification of Hong Kong Convention in 2023, the scope of which convention extends beyond ship recycling, Pakistan has been rigorously and extensively working for effective and efficient implementation of the convention in letter and spirit. The federal government, as well as the provincial government of Balochistan, for the time being, with anticipation of province of Sindh to follow, have been able to draft and finalize their respective laws and are soon to introduce in their legislatures for enactment. The coordinated efforts of the federal and provincial governments are commendable, as both are together aggressively pursuing every possible effort to ensure compliance with the convention at the earliest and achieve a more greener ship recycling industry. Nonetheless, the efforts of government of Balochistan are applauded, as they are persuasively working on multiple tasks at the ground level as well, establishing TSDF facility being one of the prime examples with the funds from the federal government. As regards to cleanliness, a recent visit by IMO's high-level delegation were amazed by the cleanliness at the Gadani shipyards. They were actually captivated by the fresh breeze of the ocean and green waters at the Gadani. For that delegation, it was something they had never witnessed before at any other yard in the world. The credit here goes to Pakistan Shipbreaking Association and the provincial government. Pakistan Shipbreaking Association deserves a huge round of applause for their relentless efforts at both federal and provincial level. I take great pride in saying that our ship recycling facilities have always been more than compliant with international standards even before coming into force of this convention. They have been and are vital to the enforcement and compliance of the convention. It is great pride to see that the private sector, that is PSBA, is investing their own money, efforts, and time to bring their ship recycling facilities at par with conventional and international standards. Nonetheless, federal and provincial governments are cognizant of their concerns and rest assured that measures are underway to address them to their satisfaction. It gives me great pride to say the ship recycling industry is the pinnacle of government and private sector cooperation and ventures. Both sides are working passionately towards the revival of ship recycling industry of Pakistan. I am more than hopeful that together, the government of Pakistan and the provincial governments, with the active cooperation and participation of Pakistan Shipbreaking Association, can bring Pakistan back to its former prominence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for joining us today and for your kind remarks, and also for highlighting the significance and also how the government is engaged with other stakeholders. I'm sure you have listened to other stakeholders as well who have shared their concerns, and hopefully we'll all be collaborating together for improving this sector. So thank you for joining us today. Just before I request the President, National Institute of Maritime Affairs, for his concluding remarks, I would like to ask all the speakers if they can briefly share one or two liner key policy recommendations that they want us to integrate within the policy document. So Dr. Fasia, if I can start from you, just briefly, you can share, so it will be helpful for us to integrate it in the policy document. Yes, please.
Thank you, Zainab. I would like to give two suggestions. First is that inclusion of green shipping sector in the maritime in the circular economy policy should be a key point. Not only the ship recycling sector, but the overall green shipping industry. It will include ship recycling and shipbuilding both. Second is ratification of all the relevant international conventions and their not only the signing but also the ratification and integration into our national regulations and national regulatory bodies, and implementation of those regulations, such as the Hong Kong Convention and MARPOL Annex 6, which has not been ratified yet. Ratification of these should be added. They will automatically contribute to circular economy, in my view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fasia. May I please request Mr. Javed Iqbal if you can very briefly share one or two liner policy recommendations, please. So you are on mute. So you're mute. If you can please unmute.
You see, the need of the time is to be geared up and ready for the beginning of the HKC implementation, which is due on the 25th of June. And one of the prime requirement is to get the TSGF facility at Kadani ready for collecting the waste. Apart from that, there are so many other things which are now being attended to. And hopefully we'll be able to make at least 6 to 7 yards ready by the time the date comes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Now, Commander Anis Muhammad Khan, if you can share your intervention, please, very briefly.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I think the key is since we have already signed the HQC, which is the master document for the safe ship recycling, which will directly contribute toward the circularity if we adhere to it. So the first thing is to have a framework for that. For the framework, we need to have put the postulates of the HKC in the federal and provincial level legislation, including the BDA Act 1974. Until unless we have the framework, we will not be able to implement it. So I think if I just go at a very, very basic level, since we have signed it, we are obligatory to adhere to it. For adherence, as the Javed has said, 5-6 yard, probably we would develop. But unless we have a mechanism of implementation, of complete auditing, complete monitoring, which is only possible if we really put this HKC postulates in the local laws for complete implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your intervention. Now, may I please request Rear Admiral Salman Ilyas for his intervention, please, sir?
Thank you very much. I think this seminar was about circularity, correct? Circularity in marine environment. So I think yes. So
marine environment and ship recycling.
Yes. So I think the recommendation should go beyond what has been said, because they are repetition of the same thing again and again and again. So what I can add here with respect to circularity is that what we have concluded the thing that can be recycled is the steel of the ship. And to recycle that steel, to make it again to be used in the marine side, it needs to be processed as per the class requirement. So whoever does that from the industry side must get some fiscal incentive, export-oriented incentives, and certification incentives, and a market share to do that. So the purpose of generating any recommendation from here is to address this issue. So these recommendations should focus on that. The rest we all know, and it's been repeated again and again, and it probably will happen or not happen, I'm not sure. But what you can do for the purpose of this circular economy, I'll repeat again, the steel is the byproduct of this process. It must go through a process of fiscal incentives, export-oriented incentives, and others, so that we can reproduce that steel again to be fit for shipbuilding, and it's brought back into the cycle so it can be used in country and outside. So this is my singular recommendation, and if this works, it will bring huge benefits to everybody in Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your intervention. May I now request Commodore Rahil Masood, retired, for his intervention, please?
I have two recommendations. First is in collaboration with PSBA, some tax relaxations and incentives programs, they should be discussed and they should be given to them. Secondly, there should be some kind of a restriction on the import of scrap other than the recycling ships. There should be some program or some kind of a mechanism to discourage the import of steel. Thirdly, we are talking about HKC, well and good, but we should be targeting EUSR as the European flag carriers won't be able to come to Pakistan until and unless we have achieved the EUSRR compliance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for sharing your interventions. I would now like to invite the President of National Institute of Maritime Affairs, Vice Admiral Retired Ahmed Saeed. Sir, please, over to you for your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zinat. I think the webinar has been very productive, very informative. And if we see about the outset, if we see the objectives outlined, we have been able to partially get the objectives done. The first was to enhance the understanding. I would say to a greater extent, this webinar has given a lot of data, a lot of understanding, specifically from the field side. And some, when we come to the actionable policy recommendation, I think more will have to be done about it. Simple webinar may not accrue that policy recommendations. Similarly, in the identification of potential circularities for investment, I think that was debated. That can also be taken into, but partially we have touched upon. And especially the strategies for insurance equitable access. And within that, I think we totally missed out the jobs for women. So that objective, I think it remains untouched. And that objective, again, we will have to relift this in some of our coming webinars. So all the points I think have been talked about very elaborately. And once we talk of circularity, it is part and parcel of sustainability. And within sustainability, when we talk of about three major issues. And that is in terms of zero emission or nearly zero emission, zero pollution, and then is the zero waste. So as I especially thank Dr. Suleri for arranging this and SDP on this topic, because this is going to be reflected into the Pakistan National Circular Economy Policy. So this is a good initiative, and all my appreciations to all the speakers, especially I would say MD Karachi Shipyard, Rear Admiral Salman. He has been on a short notice. He has agreed to come on this. Then Dr. Anil Salman and Mr. Javed Iqbal. I think the major voice which we in Islamabad should understand is from the practitioner, which we should listen them more and talk about more. MoMA at their part is doing a good job, but while we correlate what we have been concluded at MoMA during our talk and what practitioners are saying, there is a gap. That gap has to be mitigated through effective policies, providing the regulatory mechanisms. And towards the end, as Commodore Rahil said, it is about the creating incentives. Of late, the Balochistan has unveiled their new fishery and aquaculture policy. And if we see in that, they have given 20 years tax exemption. Plus, they are giving the plots on loans. They are giving the machinery. They are giving a lot of incentives. So these all things, as Mr. Shoaib Iqbal said, that we are not progressing beyond our webinars and, of course, our conferences. So that means there is a gap. So more policy domain gaps are to be looked into. And I'm sure, as he had already said to the NEMA, that we have had international conferences. We have published a very elaborate gap analysis report. But what next step is, of course, the policy domain and working closely with the IMO also. IMO has a different understanding. Situation on ground is different. To abridge this gap, we need to talk more to the IMO as well. So these are some of the recommendations I would give it to the panel also. And we would work closely to have another seminar or webinar on this to conclude whatever objectives we have not been able to touch. But all in all, I would say it's a great effort. And the Ms. Zeenat Naeem, moderator, I think you have done a good job. My appreciation to all the speakers also, and looking forward to advancing in this policy domain. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the kind words. So before we formally, end this discussion today, we have a few questions in the chat box. I think some of them have been answered, but question like which parameters define Pakistan on number 3 in ship recycling? I think this was for Dr. Anil, and he had some meeting, so he had to leave. The next question is, how do recycling yards in Gadani handle asbestos and other hazardous material? If anyone would like to answer this question, please open for discussion. How is asbestos handled at Gadani shipyard?
Ma'am, at the moment, there is interim sort of arrangements. It depends upon yard to yard. There are a few yards which are slightly better. As of there's one yard 64, which is of the Mr. Salam. They have a very elaborate mechanism. The yard of Mr. Shoaib Javed also has a mechanism, but it depends upon yard to yard. It depends upon the officer who is deployed over there, how experienced is he. What they do is that they have a sort of SOPs made based on the experiences, that in which portions there is this hazardous waste material, like the paint work, like the engine room. They mostly have these sort of things, so they identify from there. However, the HQC has a particular mechanism. They have annexure and appendixes in which a particular mechanism has been given of the identification and subsequent disposal of that.
Thank you so much. So there's a question, what measures are in place to ensure the safe disposal of hazardous? I think this is answered. How compliant is Pakistan's ship recycling industry with the Hong Kong Convention? I think this has also been answered by the two presentations that were delivered during the session. And what financial and regulatory incentives can promote sustainable ship recycling in Pakistan? I think the last presentation before the chief guest remarks, it covered this aspect as well. So thank you. May I please request everyone, if the speakers, especially if they can switch on their cameras, and we can take a group photo before we end. I think the chief guest has left, but the rest of us can take a group photo. So may I please request my IT team also, if they can capture it. So 1, 2, 3. Just a minute. 1, 2, 3. Yes, I think it's been captured by my team. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you to all the speakers here, the participants who joined us. Especially this partnership with National Institute of Maritime Affairs. I look forward to collaborating more with NEMA and all other stakeholders who are here, and all those who have joined us from different parts of the country. Thank you, and have a good day, everyone. Take care.